I'm muted. You haven't heard the last anything I've said for the last 3 minutes. That's good. Okay. Well, anyway, getting into it. So the sun god is, a very supreme, important deity for the Egyptians. And this group of people tried in the 1960s and 70s to channel this being into a person and then communicate with it, supposedly beyond the realm of human, you know, physical interaction. So supposedly communing with the spiritual. Now, you could be of one or two minds of this. I mean, you could believe that the person that they chose was very convincing, and that they chose to be somewhat deceptive and just try and get all of this stuff and just say what they think the sun god Ra would say in a very interesting way. Maybe they studied beforehand, maybe all this other stuff. But I think, it's interesting the way that it's talked about, the way that this material is presented, and the way that, if these quotes are believed, not many people talk like this. And to talk like this to hold this is such a long, it'd be a long con game if that's what you were trying to do. If you were just trying to write a book and you were, trying to do, but I think there's some validity to this. I think there is some good stuff that can come of this. And I think it's important to kind of get it out there into the world, especially in the world that we live in today, where we're so disconnected from things that are spiritual and things that are of another world. We need to reattach ourselves, and we need to rethink about how we interact with the world, because things are interconnected. We can't just go through life anymore and say that things are not connected anymore. So, with that, let's get into session 4 of The Law of One, Book 1, January 22nd, 1981. So, let me go here. Alright. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. I communicate with you now. When we finished the last session, I had asked a question that was too long to answer. It had to do with the shape of the pyramid. Is it a relationship to the initiation? Is this the appropriate time to ask the question? I am Ra. Yes, this is appropriate time and space to ask the question. I think for the sake of brevity, I'm going to ignore saying I am Ra, unless it doesn't appear, and then I will try and kind of say it, or say that it doesn't come up, just so we are kind of on the same track. But they say that in every sentence of which Ra is speaking, which, again, you could look at it as two minds. It's like, are they trying to confirm something, or is that actually something speaking through? So, let's go. So does the shape of the pyramid have an effect upon the initiation? I am Ra. As we began the last session question, you have already recorded in your individual memory complex the first use of the shape having to do with the body complex initiation. The initiation of spirit was a more carefully designed of initiation as regards to time-space ratios about which entity to be initiated found itself. If you will picture with me the side of the so-called pyramid shape and mentally imagine this triangle cut into 4 equal triangles, you will find the intersection of the triangle, which is at first level on each of the 4 sides, forms a diamond in a plane which is horizontal. The middle of this plane is an appropriate place for the intersection of the energies streaming from the infinite dimensions and the mind-body-spirit complexes of various interwoven energy fields. Thus it was designed that the one to be initiated would, by mind, be able to perceive and then channel this, shall we say, gateway to intelligent infinity. This was the second point of designing the specific shape. Maybe provide a further description. Alright, so let me just pause here. So what this is being described as seems to allude to somewhat the idea of sacred geometry, sacred kind of shapes and figures, that having those shapes and figures come to intersections and points have a meaning and have a spiritual purpose, or a purpose of gaining energy, which is what the pyramid is. It's a large geometrical object. So I see no reason why, if you believe in that would not generate some kind of field or force within it. So, may I provide a further description of any of your query? Yes. As I understand it then, the initiate was to be on the center line of that pyramid, but at an altitude above the base as defined by the intersection of the 4 triangles made by dividing each side. Is that correct? I am wrong. That is correct. Then at this point, there is a focusing energy that is extra-dimensional in respect to our dimension. Am I right? You may use vibratory sound complex. However, it is not totally and specifically correct. There are no extra dimensions. We prefer the use of the term multidimensional. Is the size of the pyramid a function of the effectiveness of initiation? Each size pyramid has its own point of streaming in or in of intelligent infinity. Thus, a tiny pyramid that can be placed below a body or above a body will have specific and various effects, depending upon the placement of the body in relationship to the entrance point of intelligent infinity. For the purposes of initiation, the size needed to be large enough to create the impression of towering size, so the entrance point of multidimensional intelligent infinity would completely pervade the fill the channel, the entire body being able to rest in the focused area. Furthermore, it was necessary for healing purposes that both the channel and the one to be healed to be able to rest within the focused point. Is the large pyramid in Giza still usable for this purpose, or is it no longer functional? I am raw. That, like many other pyramid structures, is like the piano out of tune. It, as this instrument would express, plays the tune, but oh so poorly. The disharmony jangles the sensitivity. Only the ghost of the streaming still remains due to the shifting of the streaming points, which is, in turn, due to the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet. Due also to the discordant vibratory complexes of those who have used the initiatory and healing place for less compassionate purposes. I'm going to go to this. And do this real quick. Oops. That didn't work, did it? Huh. Nope. Link to the video. Huh. Trying to put this on. I haven't, that's fine. I'll just, yeah. Switch account. Here. Yeah. Oops. Let me do this instead. What? Huh. My links aren't working. Well, that's okay. So, putting that out there. Okay. Let's get back to it. Oh, jeez. I closed out my window. I need to not do that. Okay. For the purpose of initiation, the size needs to be large enough. Okay. Usable is no longer functional. For the purpose of initiation, the size needs to be large enough to create the impression of towering size. The entrance point of multidimensional intelligent infinity would completely pervade and fill the channel, the entire body being able to rest in the focused area. So some of this is a little dense. I'm not probably going to be able to understand it. I don't know if you will either, but it's interesting. So this is going to talk about the pyramids for a little bit. The pyramid structures, like piano, had a tune, the instrument would express it. It plays the tune, but oh so poorly. This harmony jangles the sensitivity. Only the ghost of the ghost of the streaming. Only the ghost of the streaming points. Due to the shifting electromagnetic field, due also to the discordant vibratory complexes of those who have used initiatory and healing place for less compassionate purposes. That's interesting. Streaming points. How has streaming been used? I'm interested in the choice of that word because what we refer to as streams, this thing that I'm doing, in this term is streaming points. Streaming definition. Define. Streaming. Alright, here, I'm going to pull up another window capture here. Yeah. There. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to see if there's another, like, streaming point. Because to use that word in that time, I don't know. The method of transmitting and receiving data, especially video and audio material, over a computer network is a steady, continuous flow, allowing playback to start. The rest of the data is still being received. Because we all know what streaming is. This is streaming. What I'm doing is streaming. But, streaming points. So receiving data through a stream. Interesting. We would refer to it as that. And we call information being conveyed to you streaming as. Okay. Anyway. Which in turn to the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet, due also to the discordant vibratory complexes of initiatory and healing places for less compassionate purposes. Would it be possible to build a pyramid and properly align it and use it today from the materials we have available? I am wrong. It is quite possible for you to build a pyramid structure. The material used is not critical, merely the ratios of time-space complexes. However, the use of the structure for initiation and healing depends completely upon the interdisciplines of the channels attempting such work. My question then would be, are the individuals incarnate upon the planet today who would have the interdisciplines to, using your instructions, construct and initiate in a pyramid they built? Is this within the limits of what anyone on the planet can do today? Or is there no one available for this? I am wrong. There are people, as you call them, who are able to take this calling at this nexus. However, we wish to point out once again that the time of the pyramids, as you would call it, is past. It is indeed a timeless structure. However, the streamings from the universe were, at the time we attempted to aid this planet, those were to require a certain understanding of purity. This understanding has, as the streaming revolved and all things evolved, changed to a more enlightened view of purity. Thus, there are those among your people at this time whose purity is already one with intelligent infinity, without the use of structures, healer, patient, to gain healing. May we further speak to some specific point. Is it possible for you to instruct in these healing techniques if we could make available an individual who had the native ability? I'm wrong. It is possible. We must add that many systems of teach, learning, and healing patient nexus are proper, given the various mind, body, spirit complexes. We ask your imagination to consider the relative simplicity of the mind. In the earlier cycle and less distorted but often overly complex views and thought and spirit processes of the same mind-body-spirit complexes after many incarnations. We also ask your imagination to conceive of those who have chosen the distortion of service and have removed the mind, body, spirit from one dimension to another, thus bringing them in totally latent form many skills and understandings, which more closely match the distortions of the healing patient process. I would very much like to continue the investigation of the possibility of this healing process, but I'm a little lost as to where to begin. Can you tell me what the first step would be? I cannot tell you what to ask. I may suggest you consider that somewhat complex information just given and thus discover several avenues of inquiry. There is one, health, as you call it. In the polarized environment, there are several significantly various distortions of types of mind, body, spirit complexes. Each type must pursue its own learned teaching in this area. Would you say that the first step would be to find an individual with ability brought with him into this incarnation? Is this correct? This is correct. Once I have selected an individual to perform the healing, it would be helpful to receive instruction from you. Is this possible? This is possible given the distortions of vibratory sound complexes. I'm assuming then that the selected individual would be one who is very much in harmony with the law of one. Even though he may not have the intellectual understanding of it, he should be living the law of one. This is both correct and incorrect. The first case, that being correctness, would apply to one such as the questioner himself, who has the distortions toward healing, as you call it. The incorrectness, which shall be observed, is the healing of those whose activities do not reflect the law of one, but whose ability has found the pathway to intelligent infinity, regardless of the plane of existence. Okay, still very dense. I'm a little confused. I partially understand, but I'm not sure I fully understand. Could you restate that in another way? I can restate that in many ways, given this instrument's knowledge of your vibratory sound complexes. I will strive for a short distortion at this time. Two kinds there are who can heal. Those such as yourself who, having the innate distortion toward knowledge-giving of the law of one, can heal, but do not. Okay, so one type of person is one who has the distortion, but who has the idea of the law of one, but does not teach. And those who have the same knowledge but showing no significant distortions have opened a channel to the same ability. So there's two sides. One who teaches, one who does not. I think is what this is trying to say. The point being that there are those who, without proper training, shall we say, nevertheless heal. It is further item of interest that those whose life does not equal their work may find some difficulty in absorbing the energy of intelligent infinity, and thus become quite distorted in such way as to cause disharmony in themselves and others, and perhaps even find it necessary to cease the healing activity. Therefore, those of the first type, those who seek to serve and are willing to be trained in thought, word, and action, are those who will be able to comfortably maintain the distortion towards service in the area of healing. Then would it be possible for you to train us in healing awareness? I am wrong. It is possible. Will you train us? We will. I have no idea how long this would take. Is it possible for you to give a synopsis of the program? I have no knowledge of the questions to ask at this point. We consider your request for information for, as you noted, there are a significant number of vibratory sound complexes which can be used in sequence. The synopsis is very appropriate. Firstly, the mind must be known to itself. Here we go. Here we go. This is good stuff. This is perhaps the most demanding part of the healing work. I'm going to just highlight. Can I do that? Yeah. This is perhaps the most demanding part of healing work. If the mind knows itself, then the most important aspect of healing has occurred. Consciousness is the microcosm of the law of one. That seems appropriate. That seems correct to me. Consciousness is awareness. And I was reading, actually, this book this morning, which, if you haven't read it, it's very good. It's very succinct. I actually got this at Five Below. It was $5, probably one of the best $5 I've ever spent. Just looking at this and just being like, yeah, that resonates. That makes sense to me. All these laws that they say are in here. which says the 7 spiritual laws of success, or the 7 laws of the universe, I think is what the other one said. What is it? He said is the other spiritual laws of life. Yes, 7 spiritual laws of success, but also the 7 spiritual laws of life. Living in accordance with this is also living in accordance with this, as we know it. And I see no reason why this would not bring about a good benefit. Consciousness, the understanding of yourself, the understanding of your being, is nothing to balk at, nothing to be, upset over. And it's a good thing when you know yourself and you're conscious and you're aware of what it is that you're doing in the day-to-day, in the moment. So it talks about this in the book too. So if you have a Five Below, or if you just want to order it, I think there's a longer version. This is just abridged. This is like, I don't know, 100 pages, but it's very big words, as you can see. So definitely would recommend you go and take a look if you are needing some kind of guidance, because seems like good advice to me. All right, next. So consciousness is important. All right. Second part has to do with the disciplines of the body complexes. In the streamings reaching your planet at this time, these understandings disciplines do with the balance between love and wisdom in the use of the body and its natural functions. Interesting. So not just going full tilt on something. There needs to be a balance between your physical reality and your spiritual reality, right? So your physical reality is also dependent upon your spiritual one, and your spiritual reality is also dependent upon your physical one, because we are 3-dimensional beings. We exist in this plane of existence, and the only way that you get to this level of understanding is you balance those things. You have to be physically cared for in a physical sense, and you also need to be thinking spiritually. So you can't just be focused on obtaining material, but you also, and I saw this was in a tweet that I was involved with earlier, but you can't also be, having your mind probably off in a far-off place, thinking of grandiose things, because that in itself is unattainable. You need to have this merger, this balance between love and wisdom, and that makes sense. The body and its natural function. The third area is the spiritual. This area, the first 2 disciplines, are connected through the attainment of contact with intelligent infinity. I believe I have a little idea of the accomplishment of the first step. Can you elaborate a little bit on those other 2 steps, which I am not at all familiar with? I am Ra. Imagine the body. Imagine the more dense aspect of the body. Proceed therefrom to the very finest knowledge of energy pathways, which revolve and cause the body to be energized. Understand that all natural functions of the body have all aspects from dense to fine, and can be transmuted to what you call sacramental. This is a brief investigation to the second area. To speak to the third, if you will, imagine the function of the magnet. The magnet has 2 poles. One reaches up, the other goes down. The function of the spirit is to integrate the upreaching yearning of the mind, body, energy. Up, down. This is a brief explication of the third area. So up, down, right? So mind, body, all in sync, all in harmony, all together. To speak to the third, if you will, imagine the function of the magnet. Okay, I already read that. But the magnet, that makes sense. I mean, observing reality, observing what is outside, what we can see, helps to define reality, right? So knowing that the poles, there's a north and a south pole, is very important to understanding there's duality that is present within life. Because if this exists as one of the constants of life, a north and a south, an attraction and a negative, a positive and a negative, that means that is there a duality that is placed within this three-dimensional sphere on Earth. And it's important we stay attuned to that. And we know that that exists, and we know that that's there. Because we are expressions of what the world is in perhaps the most complex and simplest form. So, all right. The first step, right? Yes. Okay. So then the training program involves specific things to do, specific instructions and exercises. We are not this time incarnate among your peoples. Thus, we can guide and attempt to specify, but we cannot, by example, show. This is a handicap. However, there should indeed be a fairly specific exercise of mind, body, and spirit during the learning process we offer. It is to be one more iterated that healing is but one distortion of the law of one. To reach an undistorted understanding of that law is not necessary to heal or to show any manifestation, but only to exercise the discipline of understanding. We would ask that one or two more questions be ending of this session. Questioner: my objective is primarily to discover more of the law of one, and it would be very helpful to discover the techniques of healing. I'm aware of the problem with respect to free will. Can you state the law of one and the laws of healing to me? The law of one, though beyond the limitation of name, as you call vibratory sound complexes. I need to simplify what this means. Vibratory sound. See, vibration, sound. Speaking, vibratory sound. What you call speaking, limitation of name. Because this, I think, speaking in words and speaking, is what this is. That makes sense to me, I think. Maybe approximated by stating that all things are one, and there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love, light, light, love, the infinite creator. One of the primal distortions is that of healing. Healing occurs when a mind-body-spirit complex realizes deep within itself the law of one, that is, there is no disharmony, no imperfection, that all is complete and whole and perfect. Thus, the intelligent infinity within this mind-body-spirit complex reforms the illusion of body, mind, and spirit to a form congruent with the law of one. The healer acts as an energizer or catalyst for this completely individual process. One item which may be of interest is that a healer asking to learn must take the distortion understood as responsibility for that asking and receiving. This is an honor duty which must be carefully considered in free will before the asking. Of course, I assume that we would continue tomorrow. Your assumption is correct, unless you feel a certain question is necessary. The instrument is nurtured by approximately this length of work. I have one more short question. Is the instrument capable of 2 more of these sessions per day? Should we remain with 1? The instrument is capable of 2 sessions a day. However, she must be encouraged to keep her bodily complex strong with ingestion of foods, the physical material which we speak. Further, instrument's activities must be monitored to prevent overactivity. If managements are considered, the 2 sessions would be possible. We do not wish to deplete this instrument. Thank you. I leave you in love and light of the infinite intelligence, one Adonai. Alright, session 5. January 23rd, 1981. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. I communicate now. The last time we communicated, we were speaking of learning and healing. It is my impression from what you gave us in the earlier session that it is necessary to first purify by the self the certain disciplines and exercises. Then, in order to heal a patient, it is necessary, by example, possibly certain exercises, to create mental configuration in the patient that allows him to heal. Am I correct? Although you learn understanding distortion is essentially correct, your choice of vibratory is not entirely accurate. It is not by example that the healer does the working. The working exists in and of itself. That I'm going to highlight. There. The healer is only the catalyst, much as this instrument has the catalysis necessary to provide the channel for our words, yet by example or exercise of any kind can take no thought for this working. The healing working is congruent in that it's the form of channeling some distortion of the intelligent infinity. We have decided to accept, if offered, the honor duty of learning, teaching the healing process. I would like to ask the first step which we should accomplish in becoming effective healers. I am Ra. We shall begin with the first of 3 teachings and learnings. We begin with the mental teaching necessary for contact with the intelligent infinity. The prerequisite of mental work is the ability to retain silence of self at a steady state when required by the self. The mind must be open like a door. The key is silence. Within the door lies a hierarchical construction you may liken unto geography, and in some ways geometry, for the hierarchy is quite regular, bearing inner relationships. To begin to master the concept of mental disciplines, it is necessary to examine the self. That's a good one. I like that. Highlight that. The polarity of your dimension must be internalized. Where you find patience within your mind, you must consciously find the corresponding impatience, and vice versa. Each thought as a being has in its turn an antithesis. Correct. Polarities. Right. The disciplines of the mind involve, first of all, identifying both of those things of which you approve and those things of which you disapprove within yourself, and then balancing each and every positive and negative charge with its equal. The mind contains all things. Therefore, you must discover this completeness within yourself. The second mental discipline, so you must discover the completeness within yourself. The second mental discipline is acceptance of the completeness within your consciousness. It is not for being a polarity in the physical consciousness to pick and choose among attributes, thus being the roles that cause blockages and confusions in the already distorted mind. Each acceptance smooths part of the many distortions that the faculty you call judgment engenders. The third discipline of the mind is repetition of the first, but with the gaze outward toward the fellow entities that it meets. In each entity there exists completeness. Thus, the ability to understand each balance is necessary. When you view patience, you are responsible for mirroring in your mental understandings patience and impatience. When you view impatience, it is necessary for your mental configuration of understanding to be impatience and patience. When you view impatience and patience. I use the simple example. Most configurations of mind have many facets, understandings of either self-polarities or that which you would call self-polarities. It must be understood as subtle work. The next step is the acceptance of other self-polarities, which mirrors the second step. These are the first 4 steps. Learn this disciplines. The 5th step involves observing the geographical and geometrical relationships and ratios of the mind and other mind and mass mind and infinite mind. The second area of learning, teaching, study, and understanding of the body complexes is necessary to know your body well. This is a matter of using the mind to examine how the feelings, the biases, what you call the emotions, affect various portions of the body complex. It shall be necessary to both understand the bodily polarity and to accept them. Repeating in chemical, physical manifestation the work you have done upon the mind, be thinking the consciousness. The body is a creature of the mind's creation. It has its biases. The body is a creature of the mind's creation. The biological bias must first be completely understood, and then, the opposite bias. The opposite bias of being full expression understanding. Again, the process of acceptance of the body as balanced as well as polarized individual may then be accomplished. It is then the task to extend the understanding to the bodies of the other selves whom you will meet. The simplest example of this is the understanding that each biological male is female, each biological female is male. That is the simple example. However, the simplest example is the understanding that each biological male is female, and each biological female is male. Biological bias must be implemented. Again, the process of acceptance of the body as a balanced may then be accomplished. It is the task to extend the bodies. Understand that each biological male. Simple example. However, in almost every case wherein you are attempting to understanding of the body of self or other self, you will again find the most subtle discernment is necessary in order to fully grasp the polarity complexes involved. At this time, we suggest closing the description until the next time of work. Devote the third area commensurate with importance. Is the instrument comfortable? Is there anything we can do to increase? The candle will be rotated. Okay. I leave the instrument, and there you are. I greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. We would like to continue the material from yesterday. Proceed now. Wait, is it 24? So this is another day. Yeah, okay. Because they were talking about doing 2 sessions in a day, but I guess we're just doing the one. Excuse me. We proceed with the third part of the teaching. The third area is the spiritual complex, which embodies the fields of force and consciousness, which is the least distorted part. The exploration and balancing of the spirit complex is indeed the longest and most subtle part of your learning and teaching. We have considered the mind as a tree. The mind controls the body. With the mind single-pointed, balanced, and aware, the body comfortable in whatever biases and distortions make it appropriately balanced for that instrument, the instrument is then ready to proceed with the greater work. That is the work of the wind and fire. Spiritual body energy field is the pathway or channel. When body and mind are receptive and open, then the spirit can become a functioning shuttle or communicator from the entity's individual energy will upwards, from the streamings of the creative fire and wind downwards. The healing ability, like all other, what this instrument would call paranormal abilities, is affected by the opening of pathway in intelligent infinity. Many upon your plane of random hole or gateway into the spirit energy, sometimes created by the ingestion of chemicals such as what this instrument will call LSD, who are able, randomly, without control, to tap into energy sources. They may or may not be entities who wish to serve. The purposes of carefully and consciously opening this channel is to serve in a more dependable way, in a more commonplace or usual way, as seen by the distortion of complex of the healer. To others, there may appear to be miracles. To one who has carefully opened the door to intelligent infinity, this is ordinary. This is commonplace. This is as it should be. The life experience becomes somewhat transformed. The great work goes on. At this time, we feel the exercises suffice for your beginning. We will, at future time, when you feel you have accomplished that which is set before you, begin to guide you in a more precise understanding of the functions and use of the gateway experience of healing. I think this might be an appropriate time to include a little more background on yourself, possibly information having to do with where you came from prior to your involvement with planet Earth, if this is possible. I am Ra. I am the social memory complex of which I am a part, one of those who voyaged outward from another planet within your own solar system, as Sandy would call it. The planetary influence was that you call Venus. We are a race old in your measures. When we were at the 6th dimension, our physical beings were what you would call golden. We were tall and somewhat delicate. Our physical body complex covering what you call the integument had a golden luster. Golden luster. In this form, we decided to come among your peoples. Integument? I'm gonna look up that word. Oops. Nope. Well, I guess that's highlighted forever. That's fine. Yeah, you can go back. Oh, you can't. Okay. Good. Integument. Integument? Huh. There. Integument. Let's see. Where would that be? Tough outer protective layer, especially of an animal or plant. There we go. Has a golden luster. Okay. In this form, we decided to come among your peoples. Your peoples, at that time, were much unlike us in physical appearance, as you might call it. We thus did not mix well with the population, and were obviously other than they. Thus, our visit was relatively short, for we found ourselves in the hypocritical position of being acclaimed as other than your other selves. This was during the time which we built the structures in which you show interest. How did you journey from Venus to this planet? I am raw. We used thought. Would it have been possible to have taken one of the people of this planet at that time and placed him on Venus? Would he have survived? Were conditions of Venus hospitable? The third density conditions are not hospitable to life forms of your people. The fifth and sixth dimensions of the planetary sphere are quite conducive to growing, learning, and teaching. How were you able to make the transition from Venus? Did you have to change your dimension to walk upon the Earth? I am raw. You remember the exercise of the wind. The dissolution into nothingness is the dissolution into unity. For there is no nothingness. That's good. From the sixth dimension, we are capable of manipulating by thought the intelligent infinity present in each particle of light or distorted light, so that we are able to clothe ourselves in a replica visible in the third density of our mind, body, spirit of the sixth density. We were allowed this experiment by the council which guards this planet. Where is this council located? The council is located in the octave or eighth dimension of the planet Saturn, taking its place in an area which you understand in third dimension terms as the rings. Are there any people such as you find on Earth or on any of these other planets in our solar system? Interesting. So what is Saturn? What is Saturn in relation to spirituality? Let's see. Saturn. Oops. Nope. Saturn. Spirituality. Very spiritual planet. Yeah. Okay, that's not really answering anything. Saturn, meaning. Roman god of agriculture. I guess that makes sense. Okay, yeah. 6 from the sun. But it's the 8th dimensional beings. Yeah, Venus is the third planet from the sun. No, second planet from the sun, and we are the third planet from the sun. And it is 6 dimensional beings. Very interesting. Okay. Terms as the rings. Oh, they're in the rings? So, where the rocks are? Are there any people such as you find on Earth on any of the other planets in our solar system? I am raw. Do you request space-time present information on space-time continuum information? Both. At one time, space, in what is your past, there was a population of third density beings upon a planet which dwelt within your solar system. There are various names by which this planet has been named. The vibratory sound complex most usually used by your people is Maldek. These entities, destroying their planetary sphere, thus were forced to find room for themselves upon this third density, which is only one in your solar system at this time space present, which is the hospitable and capable of offering the lessons necessary to decrease their mind, body, spirit distortions with respect to the law of one. How did they come here? I am raw. They came through the process of a harvest, and were incarnated through the process of incarnation from your higher spheres within this density. How long ago did this happen? I'm having difficulty communicating with this deep in her state. This occurred approximately 500,000 of your years ago. Is all of Earth's population then originally from Maldek? This is a new line of questioning that serves a place of its own. The ones who were harvested to your sphere from the sphere known before this dissolution of other names, but to your peoples as Maldek, incarnated many within your Earth's surface rather than upon it. The population of your planet contains many various groups harvested from other second dimension and cycled third dimensional spheres. You are not all one race or background or beginning. This experience you share is unique to this time-space continuum. I think that it would be appropriate to discover how the law of one acts in transfer. actually transfer to, what is it there? Transfer to the, wait, all things one, wait, experience you share is unique to this time space continuum. Okay. I think it would be appropriate to discover how the law of one acts in this transfer of beings on our planet and the action of harvest. The law of one states simply that all things are one, that all beings are one. There are certain behaviors and thought forms consonant with the understanding and practice of this law. Those who finishing a cycle of experience demonstrate grades of distortion of that understanding of thought and action, which will be separated by their own choice into the vibratory distortion which is most comfortable to their mind-body-spirit complexes. The process is guarded or watched by those nurturing beings who, being very close to the law of one in their distortions, nevertheless move toward active service. Thus the illusion is created of light, more properly but less understandably light love. This is the varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex of each harvested entity moves along the line of light until the light grows too glaring, at which time the entity stops. This entity may have barely reached third density or may be very, very close to the ending of the third density love-light distortion vibratory complex. Nevertheless, those who fall within this octave of intensifying light-love then experience a major cycle during which there are opportunities for the discovery of distortions, lessening these distortions. What is the length of our years of one of these cycles? I am wrong. One major cycle is approximately 25,000 of your years. There are 3 cycles of this nature, during which those who have progressed may be harvested at the end of 3 major cycles. I am wrong. So this is talking about the harvest. Interesting. So, let's go to this. Let's do this. 25,000 of your years. So, how many years is it that the sun cycle micronovas? It's not really what I was looking for. 12,000 years? So that's about half. Interesting. I'd have to go back and see the space weather thing, but it's interesting that this seems like it would fall within the range of what would be the timeline of the micronova. Of course, I think it's like 6,000 years and 12,000 years. And there's larger ones, so 6,000, 12,000, so we get about 6,000 years. Yeah, okay. 3 cycles of this nature progressed may be harvested. That is approximately between 75 and 76,000 years. So, it's interesting. Quarters. Almost mathematical. All are harvested regardless of their progress, for during that time, the planet itself has moved through the useful part of the dimension and begins to cease being useful for the lower levels of vibration within that density. What is the position of this planet with respect to the progression of cycles at this time? I am Ra. This sphere is at this time in 4th dimension vibration. Position of this planet with respect to the progression of cycles. Its material is quite confused due to the society memory complexes embedded in its consciousness. It has not made an easy transition to the vibrations which beckon. Therefore, it will be fetched with some inconvenience. Is this inconvenience imminent within a few years? This inconvenience or disharmonious vibratory complex has begun several of your years in your past. It shall continue unabated for a period of approximately 30 of your years. 80. 90. Oh, see. So wait, this is, I'm sorry, I have to look at the date. So, 91, 2001, 2021. Whew. We're kind of close. We're right about on it. Right about on it there, according to this. For approximately 30. So it could be more. Could be less. After this period of 30 years, I'm assuming this will be a fourth density planet. I'm assuming... I mean, it seems like more people are waking up to the fact of third density reality not being the only thing that exists within this thing we call existence. I think more people are becoming more and more spiritual, and I think this does seem correct to me. It speaks to me, personally. This is so. Is it possible to estimate what percent of plasma population will inhabit the fourth density planet? The harvesting is not yet, thus estimation is meaningless. Does the fact that we are in the transition period now have anything to do with the reason you have made your information available to the population? We have walked among your people. We remember sorrow. We have seen much. We have researched for an instrument of the proper parameters of distortion in the mind-body-spirit complex, and supporting understanding the mind-body-spirit complex to accept this information with minimal distortion and maximal desire to serve for some of your years. The answer, in short, is yes. However, we wished you to know that in our memory, we thank you. The disc-shaped craft we call UFOs, some have been said to come from the planet Venus. Would these be your craft? I am wrong. We've used crystals for many purposes. The crystals of which you speak have not been used by us in your space-time present memory complex. However, we have used crystals and Bell's shape in the past of your illusion. How many years in the past did you use these? Okay, 8,000, 11,000. That doesn't really... I'm going to try and stay away from the UFO stuff. But, fair. Photographs of bell-shaped craft, reports of contact. Do you have any knowledge? We have knowledge of the oneness, of forays. You're no longer of Venus. However, there are thought forms created among your peoples. From our time of walking among you, the memory and thought forms created, therefore, are a part of your society memory complex. This mass consciousness, as you may call it, creates the experience once more for those who request such experience. The present Venus population is no longer sixth density. Do any of your UFOs presently reported at this time come from other planets, or do you have this knowledge? The Federation of Planets that service the infinite creator. There are approximately 53 civilizations comprising approximately 500 planetary conscious complexes. The Confederation contains from those from your planet who have attained dimensions beyond your third. Planetary entities within your solar system. It contains planetary entities from other galaxies. Is true. That the Confederation, that its members are not alike, but allied in service according to the law of one. Do any of them come here at this time in spacecraft? In the part, past 30 years. Okay. I'm not really interested in that. I'm fully aware that primarily interested in disseminating. However, it is my judgment in order to disseminate, it would be necessary to include questions such as the one that if this is not the objective, then I could limit it. But I understand that at this time the objective is to widely disseminate the material. Is only slightly distorted in your understand learning. We wished you to proceed as you deem proper. That is your place. We've given this information to find our distortion of understanding, our purpose to be not only that of offering our information, but of weighing it according to distorted perceptions. Nevertheless, unless the question contains power or potential for answer giving, which may infringe, we offer our answers. Thank you very much. Overwrite the instrument. Bounce due to your care, however, physical vehicle. Yes, later time. Okay. You mentioned there were a number of members in the Confederation of Planets. What avenues, service, type of service are available? I'm assuming that you intend the service which we are of the Confederation can offer, rather than the service which is available. The service available is those calls equivalent to square of distortion need, calling divided or integrated with the basic law of one. And it's distortion indicating the free will of those who are not aware of the unity of creation. From this, I'm assuming that the difficulty that you are having within I assume that the difficulty you have in contacting this planet at this time is the mixture of people here. Some being aware of this unity, some not. And for this reason, you cannot come openly and give proof of your contact. Is correct. We repeated this through the instrument. We must integrate all portions of your social memory into an illusory disintegration form. Then the product of this can serve as the limit of our ability to serve. We are fortunate that the law of service squares the desires of those who call. Otherwise, we would have no beingness in this time-space at this present continuum of this illusion. In short, you are basically correct. The thought of not being able is not a part of our basic thought form. I'm not really understanding this, I'll be honest. But by square, do you mean 10? This is incorrect. Square is, okay, geometrical, algorithmic. If only 10 entities require the services, how do you compute their calling by using the square method? Square 1 10 sequential times. Wait, now I have to read, what is this? The number of the 10 square. So they're using math, the language of the universe, which is math. So interesting. The result is difficult to transmit. I dislike math. But the reason I dislike math is because I don't comprehend it. And I guess I don't need to comprehend it. I just need to know that it is. That probably would make me just a lot better at getting into it. But regardless, let's continue. The entities who call are sometimes not totally unified in their calling, and thus the squaring slightly less. Thus, this is a statistical loss over a period of call. How about the entities present on planet Earth are calling for your service? I am called personally by the 352,000. The Confederation in its entire spectrum, 632,000. Can you tell me the result of the application of the law of squares is to those figures? I am wrong. The number is approximately meaningless in the finite sense, as there are many, many digits. It, however, constitutes a great calling, which we of all creation feel, and hear as if our own entities were distorted toward a great and overwhelming sorrow. It demands our service. At what point would this calling be great enough for you to come openly upon the people of the earth? How many entities would have to call the Confederation? We do not calculate the possibility of coming among your peoples, but the numbers of calling consensus among the entire complex possible only in isolated instances. In the case within, so this is okay. So this is talking about if we wanted to take six-dimensional beings and incarnate them onto this planet and receive their knowledge, is that possible? And what would it take to do that? And this is saying we do not calculate the possibility coming among your peoples by numbers of calling, but by the consensus among an entire societal memory complex, which has been aware of the infinite consciousness of all things. The possible among your people only in isolated instances. In the case where social memory is the servant, sees the situation, and has an idea for the appropriate aid, which can only be done among your peoples, the social memory complex designing the project lays it before the Council of Saturn. If it is approved, quarantine is lifted. So this is saying that in order to receive this, the social memory complex, you need to understand what that means. There's probably a book on their website that explains what they best describe or translate as this, but I'm out of coffee. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to get a little more coffee. So, be right back. There we are. All right, got my coffee. Oh, did my music stop? Seems so. All right. Sure, let's go for that one then. Space Western. That sounds good. Let's go for that. All right. So, interesting that if we were to collectively desire the spirit of the creator, in order to get it, it has to be approved, and the quarantine of visitation is lifted. I have a question about the council. Who are the members? How does the council function? Members of the council are representatives from the Confederation, from those vibratory levels, bearing the responsibility for your third density. The names are not important because there are no names. Your mind, body, spirit complexes request names, and so, in many cases, the vibratory sound complexes, which are consonant with the vibratory distortions of each entity, are used. However, the name concept is not part of the council. If names are requested, we will attempt them. However, not all have chosen names. Excuse me. In number, the council that sits in constant session through varying in its members by means of balancing, which takes place what you would call irregularly, is 9. That is the session council. To back up this council, there are 24 entities which offer their services as requested. These entities faithfully watch and have been called guardians. The council operates by means of what you would call telepathic contact with the oneness or unity of the 9. The distortions blending harmoniously so that the law of one prevails with ease. When a need for thought is present, the council retains the distortion complex of this need, balancing it as described, and then recommends what it considers as appropriate action. Considers 1. The duty of admitting social memory complexes. How do you guys feel about this? How does, the fact that there is a council that operates above our density and reality, and that we are just kind of part of the grand experiment of unity consciousness? It's an interesting idea. So the 2 offering aid to those who are unsure how to aid the social memory complex, requesting aid in a way of consonant with both the call, the law, and the number of those calling, that is to say, sometimes the resistance of the call. 3 internal questions of the council are determined. There are those prominent duties which the council, they are in any doubt able to contact the 24 who then offer consensus judgment thinking to the council. The council then may reconsider any question. You mentioned the 9 who sit on the council. Is this 9 the same 9 as mentioned in this book? The council 9 has been retained in semi-undistorted form by the 2 main sources, that known in your naming as Mark, and that known in your naming as Henry. In one case, the channel became the scribe. In other words, the channel was not the scribe. However, without the aid of the scribe, the energy would not. The names you spoke were Mark. Okay. Interesting. I am interested in the application of the law of one as it pertains to free will, to what I would call the advertising done by UFO contacts for the planet Earth. The council seems to have allowed the quarantine to be lifted many times over the past 30 years. This seems to me to be a form of advertising for what we are doing right now. So now more people will be awakened. A certain amount of untangling and conceptualization of your mental complex to reform your query into an appropriate response. Please bear with us. The Council of Saturn has not allowed the breaking of quarantine in time-space continuum you mentioned. There's a certain amount of landing taking place. Some entities are known as the Group Orion. Secondly, there is permission granted not to break quarantine by dwelling among you, but to appear in thought form capacity for those who have eyes to see. So, that's good to know. Going to highlight that. Thirdly, you are correct assuming the permission was granted as the time-space in which your first nuclear device was developed and used for Confederation members to minister to your peoples in such a way as to cause mystery to occur. This is what you mean by advertising, and is correct. The mystery and unknown quality of occurrences we are allowed to offer have the hoped-for intention of making your peoples aware of infinite possibility. When your peoples grasp infinity, and only then can the gateway be opened to the law of one. You said that Orion was the source of some of those contacts with UFOs. Can you tell me something of that contact, its purpose? I am wrong. Consider it, if you will, a simple example of intentions, which are bad and good. This example is Adolf. This is your vibratory sound complex. You said that Orion... Oh, so we're... Okay, we're about to get into Adolf. Interesting. This is your vibratory sound complex. So, okay. So, the word Adolf is the vibratory sound complex. I'm gonna have to make, like, a note of this, because I'm gonna forget it. Yeah, I'm gonna make a note real quick. For example, I'm just going to copy this. He defines it. He defines it right here. This is what some vibratory sound complex is. I'm just going to put this as a note for me for later. So I'm going to try and simplify it later. The intention is to presumably unify by choosing the distortion complex called elite from a social memory complex, and then enslaving by various effects those who are seen by the distortion as not elite. Then, there is then the concept of taking the social memory complex. Is that society? I haven't figured that one out yet. Thus weeded and adding it to the distortion of so-called Orion group as an empire. The problem facing them is that the fact they deal a great deal of random energy released by the concept of separation, vulnerable as the distortions amongst their own members are not harmonized. What is the density of the Orion group? The densities of the mass consciousness which comprise the groups are varied. Very few third density, larger number of fourth density, a similar large number of fifth density, very few sixth density entities comprising this organization. Their numbers are perhaps 1/10 of ours at any point in the space-time continuum, as the problem of spiritual entropy causes them to experience constant disintegration of their social memory complexes. Their power is the same as ours. The law of one blinks neither at the light nor the darkness, but is available for service to others and service to self. That's good. However, service to others results in service to self, thus preventing and further harmonizing the distortions of those entities seeking intelligent infinity in those disciplines. Those seeking intelligent infinity through the use of service to self create the same amount of power, but, as we said, have constant difficulty because of the concept of separation, which is implicit in the manifestations of the service to self, which involve power over others. This weakens and eventually disintegrates the energy collected by such mind-body-spirit complexes, who call the Orion group, and the social memory complexes which comprise the Orion group. It should be noted, carefully pondered, and accepted that the law of one is available to any social memory complex, which has decided to strive together for any seeking of purpose, be it service to others or service to self. I wish I wouldn't have to do that. That's fine, though. The laws, which are primal distortions, then are placed in operation, and the illusion of space-time is used as a medium for the development of those results of those choices freely made. Thus, excuse me, all entities learn, no matter what they seek, all learn the same, some rapidly, some slowly. As an example, the fifth density concerning the social memory complex of the Orion group, what was their previous density before they became fifth density? I am wrong. The progress through densities is sequential. A fifth density social memory complex would be comprised of mind, body, spirit complexes harvested from fourth density. Then the conglomerate or mass body mind spirit complex does its melding, and results are due to the infinitely various possibilities of combinations of distortion. I'm trying to understand how a group such as the Orion group would progress. How would it be possible? If you were in the Orion group and pointed towards self-service to progress from our third density to the fourth, what learning would be necessary for that? This is the last question of length for this instrument at this time. You will recall that we went into some detail as to those who not oriented towards seeking service for others, yet nevertheless found and could use the gateway to intelligent infinity. This is true at all densities in our octave. So this is interesting. Okay. Let's... The group... Okay. So Orion... Yes. This is true at all densities in our octave. We cannot speak for those above us, as you would say, in the next quantum or octave of beingness. This is, however, true of the octave of density. True of this octave of density. The beings are harvested because they can see and enjoy the light love of the appropriate density. Those who have found this light love light, without benefit of a desire for service to others, nevertheless, by the law of free will, have the right to use of that light love for whatever purpose. Also, it may be inserted that there are systems of study which enable the seeker of separation to gain these gateways. This study is as difficult as the one which have described to you, but there are those with the perseverance to pursue the study just as you desire, to pursue the difficult path of seeking to know in order to serve. The distortion lies in the effect that those who seek to serve self are seen by the law of one as precisely the same as those who seek to serve others. I'm just a little lost. I'll be honest. So, service to self is possible within a higher density, as this is saying, but it's still somewhat cut off. Study is difficult as the one which we have prescribed, but there are those with the perseverance to pursue the study just as you desire, to pursue the difficult path of seeking to know in order to serve. The distortion lies in the effect of those who seek to serve the self are seen by the law of one precisely the same as those who seek to serve others. For are all not one? To serve yourself and to serve others is a dual method of saying the same thing, if you can understand the essence of the law of one. At this time, we would answer any brief question you may have. Is there anything we can do to make this room comfortable? Minimal distortion without depleting the instrument to any further extent. Okay. Alright, session 8. So we got 2 more, and then I think we'll close for the day. I greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. I communicate now. I have a question regarding what I call the advertising of the Confederation. It has to do with free will, and there has been certain contacts allowed. As I understand, by the Confederation, this is limited because of free will of those who are not oriented in such way as to want contact. Many people on our planet want this material, but even though we disseminate it, many will not be aware that it is available. Is there any possibility of creating an effect which I would call advertising against the principle of free will? I am wrong. Consider, if you will, the path of life experience complex is taken. Consider the coincidences and odd circumstances by which one thing flows to the next. Consider this well. Each entity will receive the opportunity that each needs. This information source beingness does not have uses in life experience complex of each of those among your peoples who seek. Thus, the advertisement is general and not designed to indicate the searching out of any particular material, but only to suggest the nominal I'm gonna have to look that word up. Hold on a second. Yeah. Alright. Nominal. Let's see. Nomial. N-O-U-M-E-N-A-L. A posited object or event, as it appears in itself independent of perception by the senses. a posited object or event as it appears in itself, independent of perception by the senses. We have a little diagram here. Huh. To suggest the nomial nominum. I've never heard of this before. Never heard of this. Hold on. In philosophy, nomenon. I need to block myself for a minute. Okay. In philosophy, nomenon is knowledge, posited as an object that exists independently of human sense. The term nomenon, how do you pronounce that? I don't know how you pronounce that. Is generally used in contrast with or in relation to the term phenomenon, which refers to an object of the senses. Immanuel Kant first developed the notion of nomenon as a part of the transcendental idealism, suggesting that while we know the nominal world to exist because human sensibility is merely receptive, it is not itself sensible and there must therefore remain otherwise unknowable to us. In Kantian philosophy, it's often associated with the unknowable thing in itself, Ding an sich. However, the nature of the relationship between the two is not made explicit and remains a subject of debate. It's a bit complex, but necessary. Okay. Alright. Well, I suppose I understand. Let's see here. So, next. Let's see next. Actually, hold on a second. I'm gonna be right back. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay. I'm back. Alright, let's continue. So, nominal. Onwards. Okay. Oh. Oh, jeez. Okay. Okay. We're back. Anyway. Brief moment. Consider, if you will, the path of your life experience complex is taken. Nomial aspect. You said that one of the landings at this time were of the Orion Group. Why did the Orion Group land here? Purpose is conquest. Unlike those of the Confederation, who wait for the calling, the so-called Orion Group calls itself to conquest. As we have stated previously, their objective is to locate certain mind-body-spirit complexes, vibrate in resonance with their own, and then enslave the unelate, as you may call those who are not in the Orion vibration. Was the landing of Pascagoula, 1973, when Charlie Hickson was taken aboard this type of landing? The landing of which you speak was what you would call an anomaly. It was neither the Orion influence nor our people's in thought form, but rather a planetary entity of your own vibration which came through quarantine in all innocence in a random landing. They used... Okay, Charlie Hickson. I don't know anything about that. What you call war? How do they use them? To learn. Consider the race who watches a movie. Its experiences a hero, a story, and identifies the feelings, perceptions, and experience of the hero. The same as social memory complex. The entity is a vibration and did not have a connection with those. His war experience learned. Did those who used his war experiences to learn more of the law of one? Did the entities who picked him up have the normal configuration? The configuration of their beings is their normal configuration. The usualness is not remarkable. We ourselves, when we chose a mission among your people, needed to study your people, for had we arrived in no other form than our own, we would have been perceived as light. What density were the entities who picked up Charlie Hickson from? The entities in whom you show such interest are third density beings of a fairly advanced order. We should express the understanding that these entities would not have used the mind-body-spirit complex except for the resolved incarnation. Home origin of the entities is serious. The possible way for us to have any contact, observing the distortions of those who underwent the experimental sequence from the direct contact, there's least distortions available. Taken abroad. Maybe we have to ask at this time if you have a need for a short query before the end. Is there anything we could do to make the... Okay. Center... Okay. Displacement. Okay, great. Next, Session 9. January 27th, 1981. I greet you in love and light of the infinite creator. The healing exercises you give us are of such a nature that it is best to concentrate a particular exercise at a certain time. I would like to ask what exercise that I should concentrate on. To direct your judgment is an intrusion upon your space-time continuum called future. To speak of past or present within our distortion is acceptable. To guide rather than learn, teach is not acceptable to our distortion in regards to teach learnings. We instead can suggest a process whereby each chooses the first of the exercises given in the order in which we gave them, which you, in your complex discernment, is not fully appreciated by your mind-body-spirit complex. This is the proper choice, building from the foundation, making sure the ground is good for the building. We have assessed for you the intensity of this effort in terms of energy expended. You will take this mind and be patient, for we have not given a short or easy program of conscious learning and teaching. The way I understand the process of evolution is that our primitive population has a certain amount of time to progress. Here we go. This is generally divided into 25,000 year cycles. At the end of 75,000 years, the planet progresses itself. What caused this situation to come about with the preciseness of years in each cycle? Visualize, if you will, the particular energy which, outward flowing and inward coagulating, formed the tiny realm of the creation governed by your council of Saturn. Continue seeing the rhythm of this process. The living flow creates a rhythm which is inevitable as one of your timepieces. Each of your planetary entities began the first cycle when the energy nexus was able, in that environment, to support such mind-body experiences. Thus, each of your planetary entities is on a different cyclical schedule, as you might call it. The timing of these cycles is a measurement equal to the portion of intelligent energy. This intelligent energy offers a type of clock. The cycles move as precisely as a clock strikes your hour. Thus, the gateway from intelligent energy to intelligent infinity opens regardless of circumstance of the striking of the hour. The original first entities on the planet. What was their origin? Where were they first on the planet? I am wrong. The first entities were water, fire, air, and earth. Where did the people who are like us first evolve come here? Where did they come from? From what did they evolve? You speak of third density experiences. The first of those to come here were brought from another planet in your solar system called by you the red planet Mars. This planet's environment became inhospitable to the third density beings. The first entities, therefore, were of this race. The race is a combination of mind-spirit complexes, your so-called red planet, and careful series of genetical adjustments made by the Guardians. The entities arrived or preserved for the experience upon your sphere by a type of birthing which is non-reproductive but consists of preparing genetic material for the incarnation. I assume, from what you are saying, that the Guardians transferred the race here after the race had died from the physical as we know it on Mars. I assume what you are saying here, the Guardians transferred the race here, died from the physical on Mars. The Guardians were obviously acting within an understanding of the laws of one doing this. Can you explain the application of Law 1 in this process? The Law 1 was named by the Guardians in bringing up the wisdom of the Guardians in contact with the entities from the Red Planet, thus melding the social memory complex of the Guardian race. It, however, took an increasing amount of distortion into the application of the Law of 1 from the viewpoint of other Guardians. And it is from this beginning action that the quarantine of this planet was instituted, for it was felt that the free will of those of the Red Planet had been abridged. So, okay. Were the entities of the Red Planet following the Law of One? The entities were attempting to learn the laws of love, which form the primal distortions. However, the tendencies of these people towards bellicose actions caused such difficulties in the atmospheric environment of their planet that it became inhospitable for third density experience, thus the end of its cycle. Thus, the Red Planet entities were unharvested and continued in your illusion to attempt to learn law and love. Yeah. So that would say to me that Mars used to be inhabited by third dimensional beings, as we are, and that they migrated or were copied here genetically because they ruined their own planet with destroying its atmosphere, thus making it inhospitable to live on. How long ago did the transfer from the Red Planet to Earth? Approximately 75 years ago. 75,000 years? Yes. It's approximately correct. Were there any entities on the form that I am now, 2 arms, 2 legs, on this planet before this transfer occurred of this form? There have been visitors to your sphere at various times for the last 4 million years. These visitors do not affect the cycling of the planetary sphere. It was not third density in the environment until the time previously mentioned. There were second density entities here prior to approximately 75,000 years ago. What types of entities were these? I am wrong. The second density is the density of the higher plant life and animal life which exists without the upward drive toward the infinite. The second density beings are those of the octave of consciousness, just as you find vibrations, various orientations of consciousness among those the conscious entities of your vibration. Do any of the second density entities have shapes like ours? The two higher, the sub-vibrational had the configuration of the biped, as you mentioned. However, the erectile movement which you experienced was not totally affected in these beings towards the leaning forward, barely leaving the quadrupedal position. Quadrupedal. All fours bipedal. Okay. Where did these beings come from? Were they the product of evolution? Were they evolved by our scientists, or were they evolved from the original material of the earth of which you speak? Evolved from the second density to third density? This is correct. Although no guarantee can be made of the number of cycles it will take an entity to learn the lessons of consciousness of self, which are prerequisites for the transition to third density. Is there any particular race of people on our planet now who were incarnated here from the second density? I am wrong. There are no second density consciousness complexes here on your sphere at this time. However, there are two races which use the second density form. One of the entities you call Maldek. Well, these entities are working their understanding complexes through a series of what you would call karmic restitutions. Dwell within your deeper underground passageways and are known to you as Bigfoot. The other race is being offered a dwelling in density by guardians who wish to mind-body-spirit complex. Physical vehicles, as you would call the chemical form, and the other race, dwelling by guardians who wish to appropriately engineered physical vehicles. Huh? There are beings which exist as instinctual. The rigors of okay. These bodies withstand radiation, which the bodies you inhabit could not do. The body complexes of the second race dwell in uninhabited deep forest. There are many in various places over the surface of your planet. Are they Bigfoot-type creatures? This is correct. Although we would not call them Bigfoot, as they are scarce and able to take this. The first race is less able to aware of proximity, but these beings are very able to escape. Two different types. If you will accept the vibratory sound complex. The first two we have described. The third is a thought form. Bigfoot? Okay. Alright. So, let's see. We're at almost session 10. Alright, so let's do session 10. We can do session 10. And then that'll be it. It's 11:11. Make a wish. Alright. So session 10, and then we will end. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. I communicate now. I think that it would clarify things for us if we went back to the time just before the transfer of souls from... Alright, now I gotta look up what Maldek is, because I haven't figured that out yet. I have to look it up. So, Maldek has it dispelled, and let's go here. Wisdom teachings. Maldek, the lost planet. Okay. Oops. So, the planet between Mars and Jupiter? No. No. Phaeton, no. Planet Maldek. Interesting. Okay. We look just like ourselves. Huh. Uh-huh. Huh. Huh. Okay. Interesting. So this is just a Reddit post, but... Oh, you can't even see all of it. The rubble... Okay. So, according to this, there was a planet which was destroyed and is from the Orion density, which we are trying to transmute the heavy Orion war karma. Mars itself was destroyed. Nuclear war decimated the planet's biosphere, right? Seems to line up with what they said there, but could also just be taken from here and putting it here. But the souls moved to Earth, which are now responsible for the war and separation. So we have to transmute the energy into divine love. We must do this. We must do this because it is imperative if we wish to evolve and reach another plane of existence. Okay. I think I get it. I understand that. Alright. So, I think that we clarified things. We went back to just the time before the transfers of souls in Maldek and see how the Law of One operated with respect to the transfer and why it was necessary. What happened to the people of Maldek? What caused them to lose their planet? How did long ago did this event occur? The people of Maldek had a civilization somewhat similar to the societal that you know as Atlantis, in that it gained much technological information and used it without care for the preservation of their sphere, following to a majority extent the complex of thought, ideas, and actions which you may associate with your so-called negative polarity or your service to self. This was, however, for the most part, couched in sincere belief. I love the idea of Atlantis. I don't know if I've always loved the idea of Atlantis. Ever since I was a kid and I discovered what Atlantis was. I've always thought it was real. I've never thought, like, that's just a random... I've always, like, that's a real place. That's got to be a real place. I've just had this, like, urging. When people were like, no, Atlantis never existed, it was just a fairy tale. Like, no, it's a real place. There's no way you have this much language and literature about it, and it's not a real thing. Anyway. Okay. So, which you associate with the Atlantis and gain much technological with the period of the sphere, complex thought, ideas, and actions, negative polarity of service to self. Highlight. This was, however, for the most part, couched in a sincere belief thought structure which seemed to the reception complexes of the sphere to be positive in service to others. The devastation that racked their biosphere and caused this disintegration resulted from what you call war. The escalation went to the furthest extent of the technology this social complex had at its disposal in the space-time present of the then time. This time was approximately 705,000 of your years ago. The cycles had begun much, much earlier upon this sphere due to its relative ability to support the first-dimensional life forms at an earlier point in the space-time continuum. These entities were so traumatized by this occurrence that they were in what you call social complex knot or tangle of fear. Some of your time passed, no one could reach them, no beings could aid them. Approximately 600,000 of your years ago, the then existing members of the Confederation were able to deploy a social memory complex and untie the knot of fear. The entities were then able to recall that they were conscious. This awareness brought them to the point upon what you would call the lower astral planes, where they could be tortured until the mind, body, spirit was able to be healed of the trauma into you experience the previous life complex. Yeah, interesting. After the experience of the teaching and learning, the group decision was to place itself upon the type of what you call karma alleviation. For this purpose, they came into incarnation within your planetary sphere in what were not acceptable human forms. This would have been experiencing until the distortion of destruction would replace distortions toward this desire. Decision of the great majority of beings to Maldek experience. This transition to this planet being approximately 5,000 years ago, and the type of body complex available at that time was used. Was the body complex available at this time what we refer to as the ape body? Is correct. Have any of the Maldek entities transformed since then? Are they still second density? The consciousness that have always been third density. The alleviation mechanism was designed by the placement of this consciousness. Interesting. The alleviation of the design placement of consciousness in the second-dimensional physical chemical complexes, dexterous or manipulative to the extent which is appropriate to the working of the third density distortions of the mind complex. Have any of these entities moved on now? Made a graduation at the end of a cycle? Made the transition from second density bodies to third density bodies? Many of these entities were able to remove accumulation of what you call karma, thus being able to accept a third density cycle, third density body. Most of those beings so succeeded, having incarnated themselves in the creation for the succeeding cycle in third density. Reach third density, some of these entities, mind, body, spirit, therefore they remain. Bigfoot, one type, are formed by a few who came from Mars, or the entities from other places. Entities experience many places, as you would call them, cycle change, planetary sphere. It is somewhat unusual, for you see the large third-dimensional occurrence with a large number of those who must repeat the cycle. It is somewhat unusual for a planetary mind-spirit complex to, we're going to say human, we're going to call this a human complex, to contain those from many various Loki. But this experience, much for you see, you are experiencing a third dimension occurrence. Thus has been difficult to unify, even with the aid of your teach and learners. When Maldek was destroyed, did all the people of Maldek have the fear problem, or were some advanced enough to transfer to other planets? I'm going to highlight that. Hold on. Highlight. I am Ra. In the occurrence of planetary dissolution, none escaped, for this is an action which redounds to the social complex of the planetary complex itself. None escaped the knot or tangle. Is there any danger of this happening to Earth at this time? I am Ra. We feel this evaluation of your planet, human complex's so-called future, may be less than harmless. We say only the conditions of mind exist for such development of technology and such deployment. It is distortion of our vision, understanding that the mind-spirit complexes of those of your people need orientation, rather than toys needing dismantlement. For are not all things that exist part of the Creator? Therefore, freely to choose is your own destiny, is your own duty. When graduation occurs at the end of the cycle, entities are moved from one planet to another. By what means do they go to a new planet? In the scheme of the Creator, the first step of the mind-body-spirit totality is to place the mind-body human complex distortion in the proper place of light and love. This is done to ensure healing of the complex and eventual attunement. So attunement to what is the universe. After this is accomplished, the experience of the cycle is dissolved and filtered until only the distillation of distortions in its pure form remains. At this time, the harvested mind-body-spirit totality evaluates the density needs of its beingness and chooses the more appropriate new environment for either a repetition of the cycle or a moving forward into the next cycle. This is the manner of the harvesting, guarded and watched over by many. Is one of the Creator, therefore the manner of thinking is proper locus in the infinite array. When an entity is incarnate, unconsciously, he may learn consciously what he's learning. It's possible for the entity to greatly accelerate his growth. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct. Then, although many entities are not consciously aware of it, what they really desire is to accelerate their growth, and it is their job to discover this while they are incarnate. Is it correct that they can accelerate their growth much more while in the third density than in between incarnations of this density? I am Ra. This is correct. We shall attempt to speak upon this concept. Law of One has one of its primal distortions, the free will distortion. Entity is free to accept, reject, ignore. Okay. That makes sense. Many among you who, as you would put it, in one of those primal distortions, ways of love. However, if the same entity being biased from the depths of mind, body, spirit towards love and light, then to accept the responsibility for each moment of the time-space, present moments available to it, such an entity can empower its progress in much the same way as we describe the empowering of the call of your social complex distortion to the Confederation. How you empower this call? You to speak now of our previous information. The call begins with 1. The call is equal to infinity and is not, as you would say, counted. It is the cornerstone. The second call is added. The third call empowers or doubles the second, and so forth. Each additional calling, doubling, or granting power to all preceding calls. Thus, the call of many of your peoples is many, many powered and overwhelmingly heard to the infinite reaches of one creation. For the general development of the reader of this book, could you state some of the practices or exercises to perform to produce an acceleration toward the law of one? I am Ra. Exercise 1. This is the most nearly centered and usable within your illusion complex. The moment contains love. That is the lesson goal of this illusion or density. The exercise is to consciously see that love in awareness and understanding distortions. The first attempt is the cornerstone. Upon this choosing rests the remainder of the life experience of an entity. The second seeking of love within the moment begins the addition. The third seeking empowers the second. The fourth empowering or doubling the third. The type of empowerment, there will be some loss of power due to flaws within the seeking of distortion of insincerity. So, is this talking about meditation? Exercise 1? I think this is describing meditation. Just meditation doubles upon itself. That's what I'm kind of getting here. There will be some loss of power due to flaws within the seeking and distortion of insincerity. However, the conscious statement of self to self, of the desire to seek love, is so central an act of will that, as before, the loss of power due to this friction is inconsequential. Exercise 2. The universe is one being. When a human views another human as the creator, this is a helpful exercise. There you go. It's exactly what this says. No judgment. Exercise 3. Gaze within a mirror. See the creator. When you look at a mirror, see yourself, see your infinite possibility, see the creation that is possible. 4. Gaze at the creation which lies about the mind-body-spirit complex of each entity. See the creator. Seeing humanity, seeing creation within all around you. The foundation or prerequisite of these exercises is a predilection towards what we may call... Yes, I was correct. This is it. So, this idea... all these things double upon themselves. So meditation doubles upon itself. When you do this, you're calling, this is the calling, that you're calling into the rest of the universe to bring about a positive change, or a change in your life. Without this... It's so true. I mean, I looked in the mirror this morning, or last night, and I was just like, I look good. I look good. Just got out of the shower, look great. And I was just like, I have so much potential. I have so much love and life and vitality, and I want to express it. I want to stop feeling so small. Stop feeling so restricted, so compartmentalized, which is what I've seen myself as for such a long time. And it's really just false. It's just false. When you really examine it, when you really look at yourself, when you really take yourself into full account, there's no way you can see yourself as separate. Because the things that you dislike are the things that you dislike about yourself. The things that you want to fix are the things you'd want to help yourself become and make better for the world. You don't benefit yourself by looking at others and constantly judging them and being like, I am better than they are and I will never do anything that they do ever. You know, you become more complete when you realize that people are all on their own journeys or on their own ways of reaching what we hope, as this is saying, kind of the same goal, which is the idea and the possibility of meditation and the possibility of potential being reached and achieved. I think that's beautiful. So look at yourself, and meditate. Meditate on yourself, not in an egoic way, but meditate on yourself in a way that is uplifting and knowing that you can bring about a good result. All right. With this attitude, these exercises can be processed. Without it, the data will not sink down into the roots of the tree of the mind, thus enabling and ennobling the body and touching the spirit. I was wondering about the advent of civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria. When these civilizations occurred, where did they come from? This is the last question of this working. The civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria were not one, but two. Let us look at the mu entities. Hold on a second. I just want to go to this and just check. And see the last question of this working. The civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria were not one, but two. Look at the mu entities. They were beings of somewhat primitive nature, but those who had very advanced spiritual distortions. The civilization was a part of this cycle. Experienced early within the cycle at the time of approximately 53,000 of your years ago, it was helpful and harmless place, which was washed beneath the ocean. During a readjustment of your place tectonic plates through no action of their own. Huh. Interesting. There were beings of somewhat primitive nature, those who had very advanced spiritual distortions. Civilization was a part of this cycle, experienced early within the cycle at the time of approximately 53,000 of your years ago. It was a helpful and harmless place, which was washed beneath an ocean during a readjustment of your sphere's tectonic plates through no action of their own. They sent out those who survived and reached many places in what you call Russia, North America, South America. The Indians, of whom you've come to feel some sympathy in your social complex distortions, are the descendants of these entities. Like the other incarnates of the cycle, they came from elsewhere. However, these particular entities were largely from a second density planet, which had some difficulty due to the age of its sun in achieving the third density life conditions. This planet was from the galaxy Deneb. The Atlantean race was a very conglomerate social complex, we'll say society, which began to form approximately 31,000 years in the past of your space-time continuum illusion. It was slow growing and a very agrarian one until approximately 15,000 years ago it reached very quickly a high technological understanding of which caused it to be able to use intelligent infinity in an informative manner. We may add that they used intelligent energy as well, manipulating greatly the natural influxes of indigo or pineal ray from the divine or infinite energy. Thus, they were able to create life forms. This they began to do instead of healing and perfecting their own mind-body-spirit complexes, turning their distortions toward what you may call negative. Approximately 11,000 of your years ago, the first of the what you call wars caused approximately 40% of this population to leave the density by means of disintegration of the body. The second and most devastating conflict appeared 10,021 years ago in the past, according to your illusion. Create an earth-changing configuration, and a large part of Atlantis was no more, having been inundated. 3 of the positively oriented of the Atlantean groups left this geographical locus before the devastation, placing themselves in the mountain areas of what you call Tibet, what you call Peru, and what you call Turkey. Do you have any brief questions before we close this meeting? Only one. Other than what we can do to make the instrument more comfortable, I would like to have your definition of galaxy, the word galaxy as you have used it. We use the term known to your people, the sound vibration galaxy. We accept that some galaxies contain one system of planetary solar groups, Others contain several. However, the importance of the locus in infinite time-space dimensionality is so little that we accept the distortion implicit in such ambiguous term. Then the 9 planets in the sun, which we have here in our system, would you rather to that as a galaxy? I am Ra. We would not. How many stars would be approximately in a galaxy? I am Ra. It depends upon the galactic system. Your own, as you know, contains many, many millions of planetary entities and star bodies. I was just trying to get a definition that you were using for galaxy. You mentioned a couple times the term galaxy in reference to what you call planetary system. It's causing some confusion. The instrument can be made somewhat more comfortable, and support are given in the body complex. Other than this, we can only repeat the request to carefully align the symbols used to facilitate. Our contact is narrow banded, and thus the influx brought in. This must be precise. Go forth, therefore, to rejoicing in the power and peace of the one Creator. All right, so we have reached the end of Book 1, Session 10. We went from Session 3 all the way to Session 4 all the way to Session 10. So we got 6 sessions in. That was pretty good. We're about halfway here, as looks like, in Book 1. So we have more books. But I did want to bring to your attention, if you are interested in reading this material, you may go here. They do have it available. So looking here, all these PDFs are available on the Law of One Research Library. LL Research is what it is called. And here I will zoom out there so you can see that. Zoom that down. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, put this up here. There you go. So, yeah, PDFs are available here. If you'd like to find out more, you can go to LL Research and look at it for yourself. Definitely would recommend it. It's good stuff. And also, again, I'm going to switch to full screen here. This book is really good. If you just look at it, you know, it really would only take, it says it's 1 hour, you know, it says you might read it within an hour, maybe less. But would definitely recommend it. Of course, Deepak Chopra is a very well-known spiritual advisor, and I'm not sure, guru, but certainly a writer, and definitely worth your time checking this out, because this is interesting stuff. Would highly recommend this. If you want to learn more, if you want to know more about, you know, things that can bring your life to a better place, meditation, non-judgment, and reflection upon all that you have achieved and all that you can achieve and will achieve. And fear, again, is an illusion. Fear is nothing more than something that separates us from all that is and all the people around us that surround us. And yeah, I would just recommend that you check that out. And to play us out, I'm actually going to I don't know, it might get flagged, but I'm gonna play it anyway. Hold on, I have to look it up, because yeah, that's it. I'm gonna play this as we leave. Excuse me. And hopefully it will be good for you. I really like this band. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great band. It's got, you know, kind of experimental, but I think it's good stuff. And if you guys like the music that I pick out, I might actually start doing like some like music selections. I don't know if I'll be able to like listen to the whole thing, but I really enjoy talking about music that I like, and you know, what it means to me. And if you guys would be interested in that, you know, let me know. Leave a like. Otherwise, enjoy yourselves. Have a wonderful day, and a great time, and all of that. And yeah, take care. Semper Sursum Excelsior. Oh. Let me.
Clear, quiet. And then sometimes I keep letting go of thoughts, letting go of thoughts, letting go of thoughts until there is just awareness.